Hello, good evening, everyone. Hello. Yeah, so I hope I'm audible to all of you all here. So, good evening. Um, so, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome all of you to today's meet and greet event. We are honored to have an esteemed gathering of leaders, experts from across the education sector, including our distinguished directors, deans, professors, heads of the departments. Your presence here today is a testament to the collaborative spirit that drives innovation, knowledge sharing, and the pursuit of excellence in education. This event is not only an opportunity to reconnect with colleagues and forge with new partnerships, but also a space to share insights, discuss challenges, and exchange ideas that will shape the future of the education. Let's make the most of this opportunity to engage with one another, spark new initiatives, and foster relationships that will benefit our institutions, students, and communities. So once again, welcome, and we look forward to productive and enjoyable time together. So, yeah, next slide, please. So, this is the schedule of today's program. So, it is about the meet and greet program. Can we have the next slide, please? The Meet and Greet program is designed to foster meaningful dialogues between junior college principals and university leaders, including vice chancellors, heads of the departments, senior professors. This initiative aims to bridge educational gaps by focusing on career opportunities for students and promoting a culture of well being. In today's competitive environment, students face numerous challenges that can affect both their academic and personal lives. This program provides a platform for educators and experts to share their insights, strategies, and best practices to help students navigate these obstacles. Discussions will cover a wide range of topics from emerging career paths and the value of internships to mental health resources and effective support systems. By encouraging collaboration and innovation, the Meet and Greet program aims to empower educators to better guide their students towards successful futures. Participants will gain actionable strategies to enhance student engagement, well being, and resilience, ensuring that students are equipped to thrive in their academic and professional journeys. Together, we can build a supportive network that prioritizes student success and holistic development. In an ever changing world, so here today we have our speaker of the day for this integrating artificial intelligence into classroom teaching overview and challenges. Is today's topic, and we have our speaker, Dr. Professor Arun K. Tangirala Garu, Professor IIT Madras. So Arun K. Tangirala Garu is currently a professor at Department of Chemical Engineering, IIT Tirupati, and is an online professor at the Department of Data Science and AI, Vadvani School of DS and AI, IIT Madras. He holds a bachelor's in chemical engineering from IIT Madras and a doctoral degree in process control and monitoring from University of Alberta. He has received numerous awards for teaching and research from University of Alberta and IIT Madras. Professor Tangirala has published extensively in leading international journals and world-class conferences. He is the author of a widely followed comprehensive textbook titled Principles of System Identification, Theory and Practice, and a co author of the book titled Active Control of Buckling in Structures. Further, he is the editor in chief of the Institute of Engineers India, Series E Journal, and associate editor for Control Engineering Practice. Professor is also a passionate educator and currently holds the position of Chief Coordinator Swayam Prabha, a national level project by Ministry of Education for creating open educational content in several fields of higher education. He has deep interest in Indian classical music, Vedic astrology, and Vedanta. About the CAB Educational Services Private Limited, So CAB Consultants, founded in the year 1999, has a proud legacy of helping students achieve their educational and career goals. Our experienced team of career experts provides personalized guidance tailored to each student's unique aspirations and strengths. We employ a cutting-edge approach that integrates industry-leading assessments, individualized counseling, engaging workshops, empowering students to navigate their academic and professional paths with clarity and purpose. For over 25 years, we have been committed to supporting young minds as they tackle the complexities of career planning and development. Our mission is to equip students with the insights, tools, confidence they need to turn their dreams into reality. The mind behind establishment of the CAB Consultants is founder and director Mr. K. Venkatesh Garu is a highly respected professional in the field of engineering and professional education, known for his extensive experiences and deep insights. With a wealth of knowledge gained from conducting numerous coaching programs for GATE, IES, and other competitive exams, he has established a strong network across educational institutions in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and throughout India. His personal commitment and professionalism make CAB a reliable and trusted consultancy. Next slide, please. Under Mr. K. Venkatesh sir's leadership, CAB has achieved remarkable success year after year, offering essential support services in both general and technical education. As a mentor, he personally engages with students who have completed their 12th grade, guiding them through the MSET, DOST, NEET, and JOSA web counseling process. He addresses their questions, helps clarify doubts, advises them on selecting the most suitable courses and colleges during admission periods. So, next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So these are the CAB services to all the students. So we do this pre-admission counseling, which is for the engineering category. We can see the general career guidance, EPSET, JOSA counseling, BTech admission, BCAT admissions for both BTech and MTech students. So the pre-admission counseling in the architecture and planning category is as follows: all the career general guidance, JOSA. Next slide. This is the guidance given by CAB Educational Services to the medical and dental category. Under that, we have the general career guidance, guidance for the undergraduates, postgraduates of both the Telangana and AP states, followed by the All India undergraduate services related to both MBBS and BDS. The admission assistance will be given by the CABs. Next. So this is also the, with regard to the law category, we give basic general career guidance to the students. So today's topic is integrating artificial intelligence into the classroom teaching, the overview and challenges. And now I request Professor Arun Tangirala Garu to take over this session.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much, Ms. Monica, for the kind introduction.
Thank you, sir.
So, am I well audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me bring up my presentation. Can you please confirm that you're able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We are able to see your screen, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. And many thanks to Sri Venkatesh also for inviting me to this event and being able to interact with fellow colleagues in education who are in education in different capacities. This evening, I wanted to talk about a very hot topic, a very important topic that is discussed in different circles, educational circles, and in several educational forums. on how AI is going to impact our classroom learning and teaching, whether teachers are going to be replaced, and so on. There are potentially many benefits of using AI, but also there are many concerns. So, in this talk, I aim to give an overview of how AI could be used in classroom learning and teaching, while also talking about some of the risks and how we could potentially avoid some risks. But let me also tell you that we are at the beginning of this new era, right? Which I call as the open Intel era. And nobody can today perhaps claim that we know all the benefits that AI can bring, and we have all the answers to the risks that AI brings with it. Everybody is trying to understand, trying to experiment, and come up with some strategy and solution and so on. So this talk also doesn't promise any solution, concrete solution, but certainly highlights the benefits, the challenges, and some possible directions for a very effective use of AI. Of course, it'll be very nice to keep this session interactive. So I'll try to finish this talk soon enough to have some room for discussion. So as I said, we are into what we should call as the open Intel era in education, where we have three entities. So as you can see here, we have open education resources, denoted by OER. And then we have technology enhanced learning. And then, of course, the big giant AI, standing for artificial intelligence. Now, what this graphic essentially is trying to convey is there is this bottom layer, which is very important, consists of the teacher and the learner, that has always existed for centuries, thousands of years, and so on. And they have been impacted by the lifestyle, the society, the thinking in the society, the outlook, and so on. And of course, by educational policy. So this has been the framework and continues to be the base. But in the last 15 years or so, we see a huge impact, or the arrival of these three entities, which is really taking this entire bottom layer by by a storm, if you can say. It is shaking up the very thinking or the approach to teaching and so on. The goals of education do not change, but the means of how we educate, how we teach, how we learn, all of those seem to be undergoing a big revolution, right? For example, if you take, it's not just about the teaching and learning process alone. It is also about how the lifestyle itself has changed. We have gone, for example, if you look at the societal conditions, we have gone all the way from a joint family system to a small family to what I call as an electronic family system, where the family interaction itself is so weak. Everybody is busy with some electronic device or the other, and they hardly have any time to interact. And that has a deep impact on the life skills, the social skills of the learner, which is felt in the schools and the universities. And that's why you will see universities offering now more life skill courses than ever before. Sorry. So if you take even IITs, IAC, any top institution today, you will see that the first semester or the first year has a lot more life skill courses than ever before. And in fact, we have recently introduced even recreation courses and so on, simply because the kids are coming into the institutions with very low life skills, with very low social skills, and so on. They're just growing in a one-dimensional way. And I think this is where the schools can make a big difference by giving them a more holistic experience, a more competency-based education rather than just a one-dimensional competitive exam-based education. So we should go from a competitive exam-based education to a competence-based education. This is very, very important. And does AI play a big role in that? Does OER play a big role? Yes, that's exactly why we are seeing all of this today. And we should use the same tools we could use the same tools to address that glaring gap. Now, that is as far as the human skills are concerned, which are very essential. But then you have to worry about the professional skills, the technical skills, and so on, which are also being disrupted by these technologies. So it's a very complex and rapidly evolving relationships at play, right? And please note that this AI is not just impacting the bottom layer, but also how the educational content is getting created. By OERs, what I mean is the content that is available. This is a very standard terminology. It refers to the content that's available on the internet freely. So it's accessible by everyone. So that could include NPTEL content. It could include Khan Academy. It could include anything that is physics wala, whatever you see on YouTube, all of this come under OER. TEL, of course, has been around for about 25 years now, and that is what TEL, the NPTEL, if you have heard, National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning, essentially borrows the TEL into its acronym, and where we are using communication and information technology based tools to reach out to learners at large and to create content, educational tools, and so on. All of this come under TEL, how we use it, whether we use it at a teacher level or at a school level and so on. That doesn't matter, but all of that constitutes TEL. Then there is also this big change or leap, you can say, in scale of education, where you're going from classroom education to a big, large scale education. This may not be so prevalent in the schools, but yes, in fact, I should say slowly, this is also happening in schools where you're teaching online, you're trying to expand your campuses. If you are not running a school, if you are running a coaching center or a tutoring center, this is very prevalent. You can see many coaching centers adopting this model, especially after COVID. They have shifted from classroom education to large scale education. And the challenge in large scale education is that you're dealing with a diverse set of audience. That means there's a lot of heterogeneity. Then there is very low direct contact with the learners. Then administratively, it is not as easy as you're doing your teaching in campus, running your programs in campus, and so on. So there are many challenges, but there are many benefits. Obviously, that is the reason why some schools, many coaching centers, and many institutions, all of them have embraced this large scale education because of the immense benefits. But in order to run such program, which is demanding, challenging, and so on, but rewarding, you will again need AI along with edutech tools and a digital platform. And even if you are not running a large scale education program, the point that I also want to emphasize is even within your in campus programs, it is imperative, it is almost inevitable that educational institutions start embracing AI. Despite the risks that are there are many benefits. The risks have to be addressed through policies, through ethics and regulations, and so on. But we cannot stay away. We cannot really shy away from this any longer, because even if we do, independently, the teachers and the students are using AI-based tools, they are using open educational resources, and so on to learn. And if you want to bring about a uniformity, if you want to achieve excellence and so on, then it is better to embrace. So, considering that there are so many learners to be taught, Government of India has introduced several digital initiatives. I've given a few list of few such initiatives here. Some of them may be familiar to you. For example, Swayam Prabha, the program for which I'm the chief coordinator, FOSSI, spoken tutorial, and so on. Some of them must be familiar to you. Other, of course, you can look up the web. But among this, the NMEICT, standing for National Mission on Education through Information on Communication Technology, is one of the oldest. And under its umbrella, you have Diksha. I think all the school teachers should be familiar with this Diksha because it's a platform for providing quality e-content for school education. And then, of course, NPTEL, which provides a lot of content from class 9 onwards till post-graduation. It's mainly based, aimed at giving certifications, certificates, and it is self-assessment enabled. Whereas Swayam Prabha, it creates school educational content and mainly higher educational content, and it's broadcasted via DTH. So it's more of a content repository, and it's broadcasted via the direct to home channels, 40 DTH channels. And there is a special channel for competitive exams called the IIT-PAL channel. You can visit swayamprabha.gov.in to know more about this content. It's very important for a teacher, for the school, to understand what kind of open educational content exists today. Pretty much like about 15, 20 years ago, up until 15, 20 years ago, we had to be aware of what books are available, what is the hard content that is available. Now we have to be similarly aware of the soft content that is available, because this is the content that your learners are actually referring to. Whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, this is what is happening. I see my children, I see many of the school children in and around referring to so many different open educational resources. So why not the school take a step forward and say, look, we do understand that there is this open educational content. Then let me help you identify the best one. I'll talk about that a bit later. So we should be inclusive. So please remember, earlier we said competence-based. The next keyword to remember is to be inclusive in our policies. Then there is this program called Sathi, initiative called Sathi, especially set up for competitive exams. This is again an initiative of the MOE. Again, it's both DTH and YouTube-based initiative. Even Swayamprabha has YouTube channels, by the way, for every of its 40 channels. Each of its 40 channels, we have a YouTube mirror channel. Sathi is specifically meant for competitive exams, including JEE, NEET, and many other entrance exams like Staff Selection Commission and so on. But a lot of content is currently available for JEE and NEET. In fact, it is built on the IIT-PAL channel content that Swayamprabha has. And then you have many other initiatives. I'm not going to really bring up that list. But if you want to really basket this different initiatives of the government of India into different categories, I have one categorization for you. For instance, if you're looking for something that is curriculum based, then you can go with the Swayam program, or you can go with NPTEL, and then there is Gyan and so on. Of course, some of these pertain to higher education, so you can ignore Gyan for now. The Gyan program, not the Gyan. But NPTEL and Swayam offer, as I said, education based on from 9th standard. There is a separate e-Vidya program, as I've told you, which is meant for school education. That, of course, comes under curriculum as well. Then, although it is not listed here, then you have repository. Swayamprabha is one of the largest repositories of content. Then you have NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling, which gives you both curriculum-based education, lot of repository. Again, that is not listed here. If you're looking at resources, you have e-Acharya, e-Vidwan, and so on. And going forward, of course, for higher education, this ABCs, things matter and so on. But the overall message is that there are several initiatives that Government of India has been taking to create content, to take education to the masses. But this is only one side of the story. In the sense, the content is being created. Some initiatives, very effective initiatives, have been launched. But the schools have to really leap forward and bring that to their children. Okay, so what is the impact of this open educational content? Well, there are several positives, right? Yes, I promised to talk about AI, but you cannot talk about AI in isolation. That is another message that I want to give. We cannot just simply talk about impact of AI. AI powered with open educational content and technology enhanced learning is what is going to make the biggest difference to education, not just school education, but also higher education at all levels. So that's why we are talking of open educational content. And one of the biggest positives of this open education resources is the significant outreach that we have managed to achieve. We are able to ensure that millions of learners are crossing barriers of affordability and accessibility. And interestingly, since as we are creating the content for open education, we are also coming up with innovative and enriched presentations. And here is where AI can make a big difference. And again, please don't think that artificial intelligence can be only used for creating, for enriching presentations in open education. Even in your classroom education, you can do it. I'll bring up a slide that will give you the different facets of how AI can be used. Then there are novel learning platforms that have come up as a result of this open educational content, and there are many startups. So there are many business opportunities as well. But one of the biggest negatives of having this open educational content is what I call as deferred learning. And many of you must have experienced this, witnessed this in the classrooms, that students are attending physically but not listening to the teacher, simply because there is an equivalent, entertaining, engaging content on the net, embedded with a lot of advertisements and so on. So students think that I will learn it as per the comfort and convenience that I have, so I don't have to listen to the teacher. But let me just pretend that I'm listening. So they defer that learning that is supposed to happen in the classroom. And gradually that piles up, obviously, because hardly any student can be expected to have the discipline of really following up that material the very same day. And this leads to a lot of procrastination and kind of a very challenging situation a few days before the exam. And obviously, this has led to minimal or zero attention in the class, and consequently also resulted in reduced emotional and social learning. This is very, very important in schools, especially because those are the formative years. Since I think there is a content as a student, school student, that I will always go and listen. I don't even ask my fellow classmates, what is it that the teacher was trying to say, and I could not follow. Earlier, 10, 15 years ago, if I could not follow what the teacher was saying, I would ask my classmate or my friend in the class, please help me understand this topic. So there would be a social bonding, there would be an opportunity to express your difficulty and so on. All of that now really gets buried, and they are moving themselves into a cocoon. So that also has to be avoided. And how could we do that? Through peer learning. So we have to really encourage peer learning. And then there is this belief that if I watch, I can learn. It's like believing that if I read the book on my own, I can learn. Students don't understand that essentially, if I'm watching a video, it is almost on my own. It's almost like reading a book, of course, a very engaging book, but still somebody needs to guide me on my learning. So that guided learning is still essential. And this aspect, modern learners are unable to understand in a timely manner. They realize this a bit later. So, if you want to really achieve excellence today, we have to embrace AI, we have to embrace technology enhanced learning. Apart from the many other factors for achieving academic excellence, I have just highlighted the three most relevant ones for this talk. Essentially, we should identify the diversity of resources that is there, the quality of resources that are available for the teachers and learners, and proactively curate those. So, as a school, you have to ask yourself, have I really identified the open educational resources that are out there and recommended that to my students? We don't want to do that because we are afraid that the parents may say, then what is your role? Parents may ask, or the students may think that the teacher is irrelevant and so on. No, that is not the perspective. The perspective that we should take is just as the way we recommend certain textbooks for our students, we also recommend these open educational resources. And we should make it very clear through a message and through experience, give the experience to the learner that simply watching those videos is not amounting to learning. So one of the simple experiments that I keep doing and I keep recommending is show a 5 to 10 minute video to the kids in your school. And they could be of 9th standard, 8th standard, 11th, 10th, doesn't matter. And ask them after the 10-minute video, it could be on a very small topic, and ask them some questions and see if they are able to answer. If they are not able to answer, obviously they will not be able to answer because they've just watched, they have not learned. Then that is where you step in and say, look, this is the difference between watching a video by yourself and watching a video in the presence of a teacher, right? That means, or if the teacher could be the teacher in the classroom, or it could be some parental help at home, or it could be a peer who is very good in the subject. So when you can give this experience to the learner, they understand the value of listening to the teacher, having a guided learning, and so on. So schools should now start thinking proactively how to bring AI, open educational resources and everything. It's not just watching a video. It could be using ChatGPT also. I'll come to that. Okay. So clearly, if this has to be done, there has to be a digitalization of resources. There has to be infrastructure that goes hand in hand with these change in thought processes. And there has to be a platform where the school can interact. I mean, haven't we shifted now to WhatsApp based messaging? We did not exist maybe 5, 6 years ago. Every school now has a WhatsApp group for every class. We have embraced that. In a similar way, we should learn to embrace these technologies, but of course, in a systematic manner. So when it comes to adopting AI, so AI is so powerful because it not only affects, it can not only impact the way we learn, but it also brings benefits to administration and so on. But I'll start with these two prime benefits of AI. It essentially, if you turn to any search engine today on the net, or you ask any AI-based question, then any internet-based interactive conversational tool, and you ask what is the impact of AI in education, the first thing that will come up is personalized learning. And I suppose all of you understand what is personalized learning, but just for the benefit, I'll explain what it is. Essentially, it is a learning that takes into account the learner's background, the learner's, when I say background, educational background, academic skills, the competency of being able to solve a problem, everything, and factors that into training the student. And that's exactly what we should be doing, right? This is what every teacher would love to do. And AI is coming to your big help on that. You may have a class of 40, 50 students at schools, sometimes 30, even 30. You may not be able to give attention to every child in all the classes. It's not humanly possible. But you can devise these AI-based chatbots to take into account the students' inputs, and you can monitor that. I'll talk about one such platform called School AI, which allows you to, and there are many such platforms that are coming up. I would strongly encourage that the schools adopt such platforms, especially at a higher secondary school, maybe not at a primary level, because the primary level, the kids need one-on-one attention and so on. So the level to which you want to adopt AI certainly changes with the schooling level. But at the 10th, 11th, and 12th, I think the kids are ready today to be able to use this technology. Even a year or two before, we know the kids are using this technology. So there is tremendous scope for coming up with personalized learning. And the other big impact of AI is knowledge enrichment. That means I have now a live conversational encyclopedia at my disposal for enriching my knowledge. But of course, there are risks. I'll talk about those risks very soon. Now, what I'm showing you on the left is the set of tools or the set of things, activities that you can use AI at the teacher and teaching and administrative level. So we talked about personalized learning and knowledge enrichment. You can use AI, as I mentioned earlier, for content creation. For example, in Swayamprabha, what we do is we create questions. Let me show you some sample questions that I have. For example, we took a lecture and from from industrial ecology and some topic like that, and we passed the video and the text. Doesn't matter whatever content you have today. It can even read handwriting, and it basically converts transcripts to a text if you are given a video. And from there, you could generate questions. You know that ChatGPT like technologies are now very well equipped at generating questions. So you can generate multiple choice questions, right? For example, you say, which of the following is not a benefit of using plastic? I didn't conceive that as an SME. I just took that text and the tool and asked it to generate, and it gave me some nice multiple choice questions. Then I ask it to generate fill in the blanks type questions. And I can also ask it to generate a one-liner or one-word type questions, true or false questions. And you can ask open-ended, you can ask the tool to generate open-ended questions. All of this is possible today. But please remember that the teacher, the instructor has to go through each of this to make any corrections, because you cannot trust these questions for their accuracy. They need not be correct. They can be actually wrongly worded. They may be biased in the answers, in the questions, and so on. So you have to sometimes worry about the ethics of asking these questions that have been raised. Now, of course, today's tools, you can say, you can feedback these questions and say, can you correct? I noticed that there are some mistakes. It will do a second round and so on. So stop thinking of AI tools as tools. You can think of them as your assistants, nearly human assistants, whom you will interact with, who are likely to make mistakes. But if you give one feedback, this human assistant or this AI assistant is likely to make corrections. In the end, it has to be corrected and curated, both by the teacher, but a lot of the bulk of the work has been done by the tool. You just have to make some fine corrections. This doesn't mean that the teacher should not set questions of his or her own. Okay, that originality of the teacher should never be lost. But a lot of the things that you want to automate can be automated. On top of this, you can give one or two questions of your own. But at least as a quick thing, when you are designing personalized learning tools, you can, platforms, you can use these tools to generate questions on the fly. Every time you ask it to generate questions, it can generate a new set of questions, and you can even control the complexity level and so on. So very, very attractive that things that you can do. Okay. Okay. So you can use this for automating certain tasks. You can use AI for tutoring. You can actually program a chatbot. And when I say program, you don't write any programs, but you can simply give some settings and say that create an AI chatbot for this topic, so that the student who will use this chatbot has can use it effectively for this topic, and this is what the student's level is, and so on. So a lot of these platforms today, School AI, all these tools are allowing the teachers to create such tutoring bots, or chat, you can say, not chat bot, but tutor bots that will interact with the child, and you can monitor it. It is not that you create one and just dump it onto the child. So there are many things that you can do. And of course, at a higher level, you can use interactive simulations, maybe in the 11th and 12th standards and so on. Of course, AR, VR gaming is a future thing. Now, at the student level, at the learning level, but the tools, the integrity, that means if you are, let us say, conducting some simple quiz just to assess, the child's progress, or you're conducting some exam, then you need some integrity monitoring tools and so on. But maybe at the school level, that is not so much interesting. You can use AI for enriching presentations. Many of you must be aware that today you have fantastic tools where you can type in the text and ask it to convert to images or videos. But every time you do that, please ensure that that you have done the check for correctness, right? And that you have ensured that there is no bias. Then you have translations, which is now the biggest thing. So in India, we, including the ministry, everywhere people are emphasizing content in regional languages. Of course, we are still not completely there, but yes, we have made one big leap there, and there is AI for Bharat, which is making a big impact there. And then there is Anuvadini and so many other things that are bringing translation tools for the Indian context. All of this is possible, the success is possible if four things are taken care of. One, make sure that children are sensitized on the ethics and regulation. When they use content, they have to be trained, sensitized on using existing content and not claiming it as their own doing, that they're their own working. So they have to learn to be trained in dealing with plagiarism. Then they have to be trained in using AI tools for the benefit of the society rather than misusing it. We have been hearing in the news time and again about deep fakes and all of that, or using it for troubling someone and so on. So all of that, we should really sensitize our kids at all levels, not just at school levels, even at the higher education, we have to train. So that is an extremely important aspect that the institute has to take care of. So teachers also have to participate in that. Then we need to have the right infrastructure, as we discussed earlier, and bring about curriculum changes if needed. Many schools are adopting AI and ML, but be careful there not to overdo, because at a school level, you want to be really careful. So curriculum changes really, I would really worry about at the higher education. But it's not such a bad idea to expose them, to introduce them, to train them in certain AI-based tools at the 12th standard and so on, because they're at the pre-university stage. So please consider that, but not at a really low level. I think you still want them to be following the traditional curriculum. And then train the teachers. Make sure that the teachers are trained, because they have to be realigned. Very, very important to realign. That's the word that we want to think. It is better to realign than to resign. So we talked about being focusing on competency based rather than competitive. We talked about being inclusive. We talked about ethics and all of that. And now I'm talking about realign, right? Mentioning realign rather than resigning. Yes, it will replace teachers if the teachers are not willing to realign. We have to. If the street vendor has realigned himself or herself to UPI based payments, then we should also. Anyway, so there's a list of AI tools that are available. I'm not going to go over this. This is for your leisurely consumption for different activities. Some of the names must be really familiar to you, like ChatGPT, Notebook LM, and so on. Some of the things are fantastic. Like if you take Notebook LM, it is just amazing. You can have a text and give it to Notebook LM. It will create podcasts. What I mean by podcast is two people conversing with each other on the topic, rather than somebody reading a lesson, a text that can be boring. Listening to someone conversation can be really very engaging. So Notebook LMs are becoming very, very popular, and there are many such tools also cropping up now. Then you must have heard of tools like Perplexity, Meta AI, Llama, essentially, and so on. In fact, we are using Zoom. There is Zoom's AI assistant. If the administrators of this talk and the events think appropriate, they can turn on the Zoom's AI assistant to summarize the meeting discussion, so that it takes down all the notes. But of course, it has to be curated as well. Machines can err. Please do not trust the machines 100%. Then there are so many other tools, of course, that do not find a list here. And I'm not really owning, or I don't have any vested interest in any of these tools. I've just given this for a list. You can perhaps ask ChatGPT itself or any other tool to list more tools for you. I want to draw your attention to a few, again, this is not exhaustive, to a few platforms that are that are customized for schools. So there is something called School AI, which I find very interesting. It allows you to create spaces for AI-powered tutoring lessons. And it's like a learning LMS, learning management system, which is AI-powered. The teachers can actually create AI-based chatbots. They can monitor what interaction the student is having with the AI tool. And based on that, they can even guide them and so on. You can have AI-based lessons, activities, and so on. And you can embed these in Google Classroom links. So same is the case for Magic School. It can be used for rubric generations and so on. But whatever is done, please remember that the teacher or the administrator has to chip in and make all the necessary corrections, fine tuning, customization, tailoring, and so on. It cannot be completely outsourced to the machine. What AI is bringing to you is a completely new set of tools. It's like a new, powerful maid at your home. Still, you have to really guide the maid. Okay. Then there is this Teach AI. Okay, there is Flint K12, by the way, which really generates AI for helps you with AI for personalized learning in math, sciences, and so on. There is Teach AI, which is not an AI platform, but I think this is something that every school authority should read up because it provides a toolkit for the authorities, the leaders, and so on for incorporating AI in education in a safe, effective, and responsible way. So there is a whole set of documents that is open access. It's run by some leading educationalists across the globe. Please do look up this Teach AI. I think it has some very neat ideas and presentations for coming up with policy changes, what kind of administrative changes you want to bring about, infrastructural changes. How do you go about incorporating AI in your schools at different levels? And so it's fantastic. I think it's coming up very nicely. So please remember, you want to realign, you want to induce curriculum changes, you can use LLMs to generate review questions. By the way, what I've written here in the bracket is T at the teaching level. You can even think of hybrid learning. If you are conducting an online program, it is always good to have a hybrid thing so that the peer learning happens. And there is something called a flipped classroom model. We talked about deferred learning earlier, students not paying attention in the class. Some schools and some colleges are actually trying to adopt this. I know if you're looking at 11th and 12th, you're really worried about competitive exams and so on. I think please think about competency also. And one of the competencies that you want to develop is self-learning. So flipped classroom models are very useful in self-learning. So today, when you read NEP or Swayam Prabha and so on, it's all about self-learning. If you were to draw two axes, one vertical axis, one is guided learning, other is self-learning. The guided learning curve will decline as with the passage of time, and the self-learning curve has to rise with the passage of time. Where they intersect is very important. Typically, it is recommended that the guided learning and the self-learning curves intersect around the secondary school. Slowly, the kids should be able to learn almost on their own with the help. Of course, there is always a teacher, but that component should be much heavier. Why? Because there is so much content available and the learner is expected to learn on their own. So this is the expectation in the society today. This is expectation of the corporates, the everywhere, because they say you have so many resources at your disposal. So flipped classroom models can help you with that. And please ensure that the teachers, schools, and parents are provided with digital literacy, and very importantly, teach ethics, train in collaborative effort. Just because these AI tools are there, students should not go into a cocoon. They should still learn to interact and together validate the answer. See, these two important points that I want to make. Unlike calculators or computers and any other technology that we have seen, AI-based technologies totally different in 2 or 3 respects. One, it can give you biased answers, and two, data privacy. That's extremely important. So it takes our data and we don't know what it does with it. It can share it with someone, it can defame, it can do many things. And thirdly, it can, make us follow unethical practices and so on. So these three are the prime reasons why people are worried about the use of AI, okay, as against previous other technologies that have come into education. And therefore, it is very important to sensitize teachers, students, parents, everyone in these three important aspects: the bias in the answers, the data privacy issues, and the ethics of using it. Okay. And that is exactly what we are summarizing in the last point. And as a result, you want people to use AI in a responsible way and encouraging social interactions. So I just wanted to conclude with maybe 2 or 3 slides and I'll be done, and then hopefully we'll have time to take some questions. This is a schematic that reminds us that as we make changes to one component of formal education, we have to worry about other components. So if the teachers are being asked to realign, the institute should also bring about changes in the policies, infrastructure, and so on. And we should also be able to embrace technology and train kids in self-learning and make sure that the peer learning is happening. And very importantly, our libraries are realigned. Our libraries have become very dull. The school libraries can actually be both the college libraries, university libraries. They have all become very dull because they still believe in this learning from book model. Learning from book model is going away. Learning from the GPT-like technologies, learning from online content is the new era. So how do the libraries realign? I'm not going to talk about it today, but if you have some questions on that, I can talk about it in the Q&A session. So please train in self-learning. Learning is a non-trivial process. It's a deeply cognitive process. So it's very important and very useful if you can think of a course in self-learning. First, the teachers should be trained in self-learning in the modern era. Then they can pass on this skill to the school children as well. And very importantly, you must have heard about this: train in asking. Culturally, we have been told this time and again, especially in the Indian and Asian culture. We know that how we ask our elders, how we ask our peers, and so on. We have to be aware of certain norms. But technology is also now demanding that we be trained in how to ask. That means how we ask the chat GPT like technologies makes a big difference to the answer. Therefore, a lot of courses in prompt engineering have picked up momentum. And I think when you're training teachers in using these LLMs and when you're training children in using GPTs, we have to train them in how to ask questions. Okay, and in statistics, this is very well known, but now we have to bring this into the LLM era, LLM arena as well. And therefore, learning by asking, we know learning by asking is a very healthy trend, and we should encourage that. And conversational AI, conversational machine learning that is one of the important directions for future. Okay, so this slide, I will leave it to you. This is a new paradigm that I've been proposing, a 5-layered paradigm for teaching and learning, starting with the simplest of things that the teacher should focus on, teaching the what and how, and then going into how to solve, and then and then talk about the concepts, and then train them in applying the concepts and so on. So basically, it is based on the Yoga Shastra's Panchakosha. So you go from the gross layer to the bliss layer. You train some minimal skills at the outer layer, and then you teach them the theory underneath, and then you train the children in how to abstract and apply. It's like in second standard, we teach them number problems, how to add up, and then gradually we give them word-based, paragraph-based problems in math, and we ask them to solve the problem. So that requires a higher cognitive thinking. So that is how this is structured. So the first 3 layers are for the students, and the next two layers are for the teachers. The teachers themselves should learn responsibly, and that comes only with teaching. And finally, if you've been teaching the subject for very long, you do develop a lot of perspectives and you experience the joy of teaching, right? Pretty much like what the Yoga Shastra says, that the outer, the fifth layer is that of the Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss layer and so on. There is a YouTube lecture of mine. If you're interested, I can share it. But I'll conclude by saying it is time to redefine outcomes, the roles, and integrate new tools, develop competence and not just skills, and remain human while being scientific. And also, there is an art to it. Remember, the first three letters of artificial intelligence is art. So we cannot ignore that. With this, I will conclude. Thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions, quick questions, I can answer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for an engaging and insightful presentation on integrating AI into classroom teaching. So, how we can embrace AI despite the drawbacks, all the digital initiatives, Diksha, Swayam, Sathi, all that you have given to all of our participants in a brief manner. Also, the multidimensional utility, how we can see AI as an assistant rather than a tool, both the positives and negatives of the artificial intelligence in the everyday learning, the ethics regulations, training, be it the curriculum changes to be followed, realigning them. All that was very good and clear enough. I hope it will benefit all of our audience today. So, your expertise and passion for the topic were very evident, sir, and your ideas both inspiring and practical. So, the strategies and examples you shared gave us a fresh perspective on how AI can enhance learning experiences and support both educators and students. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
So, if anyone, please raise your hands, participants. Any questions, you can please raise your hands or leave a message on the chat box.
Yeah, it'll be nice to hear the voice directly, but if you can't, then yeah, please do raise.
Uh,
Is there anybody trying to speak?
yes, yes. Technical team.
Hi, Professor. Very good evening. This is Dr. Ravi Kiran from
Yeah.
I Aspire Mind Foundation. Thank you so much to the cab and as well as personally to you. Very nice voice. Afternoon hearing you is completely changed the perspective.
Thank
Really
you.
glad to hear from you. The interesting one, the last one which you mentioned, asking the question. Now it has
Correct.
become very easy tool, having the chat GPT or similar tools. But in the classroom, how do we really engage? Because one definitely stigma is with the young generation that if I have a YouTube or a chat GPT, I don't need professor. And
Correct.
especially, so in this scenario, how do we really inculcate that interest?
Very good. So I'll take you back to one of the points that I made in the presentation, an experiment that actually I talked about, right? So sometimes experiential learning is the best way of answering the training the kids. So what you can do is you can take maybe 10 minutes off, the first 10 minutes off your regular classroom thing, or even 15 minutes, depending on the time that's available, and go through a sample or a representative session of a child or a student using GPT-like tools or YouTube-like, especially GPT-like tools, because YouTube also is becoming slowly, old-fashioned for the kids, because obviously they're able to interact. YouTube is a passive way. Now, what you can demonstrate is how a typical student goes through, or one or two students goes through the usage of ChatGPT for learning a particular topic, and type different questions and see how responses come about in different ways. Okay. And that itself is revealing to them, oh, if I ask in a particular way, I get the answer accordingly. That is point number one. And point number two, very important, training them in validating this. And this is where you say that it is not sufficient just to have ChatGPT. You still need that education, the traditional education, which teaches you the accurate stuff, right? Accurate knowledge. And thirdly, also doing it together, so that when you are sitting together, the chances of you being able to identify mistakes in the answers is higher. So that means, as a teacher, now I have to think of such an experiment, which is not very difficult, but it is important to give that experience to the kids. And the objective of that experiment is to first impart the importance of asking, two, understand that there could be biases in the answers, and three, the importance of still turning to a knowledgeable person having the right knowledge to be able to validate that this is not the only resource that is available, and that this should be trusted 100%. It should not be that. But this has to be done at a classroom level, or you can do it for for a larger class to show to everyone, because this is applicable to a larger to everyone in the school. And creating such doing such simple giving such simple experiences goes a long way in giving them. Otherwise, what happens is, see, we cannot expect the parents to be really doing this all the time. Although I must say that parental guidance is extremely important, and parents should spend time, as much as I say that they should be doing away with electronic gadgets, but still parents should be spending time with the kids in guiding them on how to use these tools. But I think the larger responsibility rests on the school in this matter. The parents' responsibility is in teaching them ethics and so on. But in using these tools, the schools play a tremendous role. So doing things like this will also make them realize that simply conversing with ChatGPT or watching YouTube does not translate to learning. In fact, one of the experiments that you could do is, okay, now you have conversed and you have learned something. Let me give you a problem that whether you can answer that question or whether you can solve that problem. And they quickly realize that application of what they have learned is not straightforward. So that's where the teacher comes into play, and they have a greater appreciation for the role of the teacher. So, and it should not stop at that. The assessments, everything has to be realigned. And that is why I'm saying we'll have to really sit and redefine and realign. And this cannot be done overnight, but we cannot defer it as well. You're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Arun. Yeah, really wonderful. Yeah.
Any more questions, anyone from the audience? You can please raise your hands or leave a message in the chat box. Yes, there is Venkataramana, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You can unmute yourself, sir. Yeah. Please.
Good evening, Mr. Arun. It's been so good. I'm sorry I couldn't listen to the complete part. But
No,
I could understand government is providing so many platforms, isn't it? But what I understand is the awareness is not there, Professor. Okay, about this. And number two is basically, once we get used to how to make the platform to make us think, because even ChatGPT to be used, we need to use our abilities to get the right answers.
Correct. Absolutely.
Isn't it? So this thing is how we can develop this area of creativity in the listener or watcher, number one. Number two is it true that AI will really create unemployment, Professor Arun?
Yeah.
This is the question which I wanted to ask.
That's a very burning question. I know that. That's a very hot question indeed. So I'll address the first one first. See, when it comes to using AI tools and so on, certainly a lot of awareness and literacy has to be provided. Digital literacy is needed. And and nobody is an exception. I would say the administrators, the teachers, the parents, and the students all have to, unfortunately or fortunately, learn new things, but to varying degrees, depending on the situation and the context. Which means that a lot of training programs have to be conducted. It is not sufficient if we just throw out these tools. So training is very, very imperative. And the objectives of the training also have to be laid out clearly, because what you want to train the teachers in may be different from what you want to train the administrators in, and the students and the parents and so on. But the schools have to take a lead. Each school has to take a lead in this and conduct training programs. And slowly that is emerging. In fact, interestingly, we are being contacted by industries also, corporates also. Can you actually coach us in AI? Okay, so everybody is asking for this. So there is no escape to that. Certainly, training, digital literacy is required. With regards to the second question, in fact, I answered that. Unless we realign, we may have to resign. Okay, so better to realign than to resign. What I mean by that is the new technology is arrived, and will AI replace us? Will AI really create unemployment? My answer is no, but there is a yes if we don't learn to reskill ourselves. That is what it is. So an AI literate teacher can replace a teacher who is not willing to realign. That can happen. That certainly will happen. But complete replacement will not necessarily happen. There may be a shift, there may be a displacement, and so on. But it is more about upskilling, reskilling ourselves than thinking that, oh, my role is gone. No, that will not happen. See, after all, who will detect mistakes in the answers given by ChatGPT? It is again humans only, right? Okay. And you cannot use another ChatGPT. You cannot expect one visually impaired person to guide another visually impaired person. That is not possible. So it is the same human who has to validate, who has to see whether the ethics of it is being followed, everything. But the roles are changing. So no longer is the teacher a postmaster or a messenger taking the content from the book and putting it on the board. No, that is gone. No longer is the teacher only kind of a disseminator of content. No, the teacher now becomes a guide, becomes a mentor, plays a role in applying the concepts and guiding the learners in the new age era of AI and open educational resources. So they have to redefine their roles, they have to reinvent their roles. See, this reminds me of COVID times. Before COVID, a lot of teachers were reluctant to embrace the computers or online tools and so on. But they had that option before COVID, but COVID did not give them an option at all. I was a chairman of a school for 6 years, and I know how my teachers had to realign. But once they realigned, they enjoyed it. So it is that inertia, it is that reluctance that exists. But once they get the taste of it and they see the success of it, there is no looking back. So the schools again have to play a proactive role in pushing the teachers into that zone. But if there are teachers who do not want to be pushed into that zone, yes, then they'll be replaced. You are on mute, sir.
Yeah. Professor Arun, actually, I underwent NLP training in 1997.
I see.
That was a neuro-linguistic programming under a software engineer called Dr. Richard Bandler, who is the propounder of NLP. Now, the same NLP, I believe, is being used called natural language processing.
Correct.
Yes or no?
Yes.
As a leadership trainer, Professor Arun, what is the way to look into this dimension, number one, and be of use to our country in agriculture sector? That's one question I wanted to ask you. Okay, because I believe there will be a lot of revolution coming now.
Correct. Correct.
Yes or no? In every sector, but agriculture being our core thing, I just thought that's one question I want. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll answer it partly, and of course, we can carry this conversation into the email and later offline. When it comes to training in NLP, the way I look at it is depends on the audience. So if you are actually teaching teachers, if you're training teachers or students and so on in using NLP, first I would train them in using the tools rather than the underlying technology. It is like driving. Would I train the driver first in driving the vehicle or open the hood and talk about the technology underneath? Obviously, I will first train the driver in the steering wheel, the ABCs, and so on. And that may be a good survival skill to start with. Now, if the teacher or the learner wants to go one step further, one step deeper, then you bring experts to teach how this technology is built. Okay. Because again, that depends on the level. If it's a school level, they may not have enough knowledge to understand this. But if you have teachers, then maybe teachers who want to understand this technology. And for example, ChatGPT now allows you to create custom GPTs. That means you don't have to use the entire ChatGPT. You can take a part of it and you can create a GPT for your school. So how do you do that? How does the technology work? And so on requires a deeper level of training. So first I would start with the training of the tools, and then I would go one step further depending on the requirements of the trainers and so on. Yeah, if you or your institution wants to really engage in such a training program, you can write to us and we'll be able to identify experts who can do that for you. With regards to the agriculture part, I'll answer by email. Yeah, you are on mute, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else? I'm not.
Yeah, any questions? Yeah, any questions? Please raise your hands or leave a message in the chat box. So I have an announcement to make. First of all, I would extend our deepest gratitude to all of you, sir, our distinguished directors, deans, professors, HODs, for gracing us with your presence today at this meet and greet event. We are excited to inform you that this event marks the beginning of a series of engagements focused on technology and student career development leading up to the next academic year. Further details will be shared with you shortly through emails and WhatsApp. We warmly encourage your participation in these upcoming events. Your presence and contributions will continue to be pivotal in driving these initiatives forward. So, thank you once again for being part of today's event. We look forward to your continued involvement and support in the events to come. We all hope to see you again. So, thank you, sir. Anyone would like to say anything? Thank you, Arun, sir, Venkataramana Garu, Dr. Ravi Kiran, for your active involvement in the event today.
Yeah, it's important to ask. We are saying training in asking. It has to begin from here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Monica ji. Thank you, Venkatesh ji. So we'll continue to keep asking.
Yes, sir, sure. So thank you, everyone. So we all hope to see you again. Thank you, one and all. Thank you. Thank you, sir.